Salut à tous, what a performance. They were waiting for a miracle, and here at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, that miracle arrived. France beating the All Blacks. An absolutely amazing achievement, an amazing game. Fantastic news, of course, for the French players and for their many thousands of fans who've made the trip. So, fantastic stuff ahead. Let's take a look now at what's been, well, an up and down, but ultimately fascinating tournament for the 15 de France.
The stare of Sébastien Chabal, confronting the New Zealanders' haka. The French challenged the pre-match ritual eyeball to eyeball. A sensational opening to a game in which the All Blacks were, for a second time, sent home from the World Cup by Les Bleus. After beating competition favourites, the French have already turned their attention to their favourite enemy, England, who they will face on Saturday.
This match is now over. It was only the quarter-final, not the World Cup final. What we want is to be world champions. Now we have to think about the game against England next Sunday. It's going to be a different match, and the odds are always 50-50 for this kind of game.
The French have beaten the world's greatest rugby team, but the English sent the Wallabies packing, which is no small feat either.
Even if we have beaten the All Blacks, it was just a quarter-final. There are still 2 matches to go, and we've got to look ahead to the next one. But one thing that's for sure is that we have grown from this match.
Confronting the French, England has one serious weapon. One man, that is, Johnny Wilkinson, the star of the team and the top point scorer in Rugby World Cup history. A man that single-handedly could seriously threaten the French. The English started their tournament slow, surprised many, taking their place in the semi-finals by sending Australia out. And now they look at least as ready for action as the French. France beat England when the two sides met in warm-up matches during the summer, but in competition results, it's the English that have the upper hand. In the last 6 Nations, they beat France 26-18, while the last time they faced each other in a World Cup competition 4 years ago, the French were crucified 24-7. But as the coach of the French team knows, they are often their own worst enemy. As outsiders, they can move mountains and race past All Blacks, but when they've got the support of their nation, they can crumble, like in their opening match against Argentina. Their semi-final against England will be played in Paris, where the home crowd have renewed hopes that their boys can do it.
You know, they say that the teams from the Southern Hemisphere are by far the stronger. We're talking about the All Blacks, the Australians, and of course the South Africans. Well, we've seen 2 results in the past few days that seem to suggest that the rugby tide might be about to turn. Let's take a look.
All Black fans are in mourning, and they're not the only ones. The usual suspects, Australia and New Zealand, have packed their bags and are heading home. Never before in a World Cup tournament have 2 teams, 2 favourites, left so early. With their quarter-final wins, France and England have turned the North-South divide on its head, for this tournament at least.
Up to now, they always kept advancing with a scrum or otherwise. They had a sense of strength, and we were the first to say that New Zealand and Australia were the best prepared and informed. The quarter-final matches doesn't mean that there are now bad teams. If the matches were replayed tomorrow, they could win, but the game shows that there's a certain leveling off between North and South.
The Southern Hemisphere's big hitters romped through their groups, barely breaking into a sweat. New Zealand destroyed Scotland and Italy, and South Africa humbled reigning champions England. The northern teams seemed sluggish, their backlines were caught flat, the southerners kicked further and looked faster and fitter. The gap between the 2 sides has been a feature of most Rugby World Cups, commentators putting it down to the way the game is organised in the different halves of the globe. England's triumph in 2003 was the first for the Northern Hemisphere, but even then there was a feeling that it came despite of and not because of the nature of English and European competition.
The Southern Hemisphere teams are used to regular high-level competition because they play the Tri-Nations, a kind of World Cup, every year. But the Northerners only get that level once every 4 years.
Some Northerners have also complained about the timing of the World Cup. Holding the tournament in autumn sees the Southerners arrive fully honed on the back of the Super 14 and the International Tri-Nation Series. For the North, the autumn rendezvous comes after the summer break. Though this year the rest may have worked in their favour, at least one team from the North is guaranteed a place in the final.
So I'm afraid that's it for today's programme, but of course don't forget our rugby blog, which is on France24-EN-Rugby-October. We're looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this absolutely scintillating World Cup. So whatever the result, whatever happens to your team, make sure you have a good celebration. Whatever happens. See you tomorrow.